support.
The maestro, please!
First pop analysis of summer, and we're talking about an artist we've never mentioned before. Today, we'll be going over Sabrina Carpenter's Please, Please, Please.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter is an American singer, but she originally got her start as an actor on Disney Channel's Girl Meets World. Oddly enough, she actually sang the theme song alongside her co-star Rowan Blanchard.
I feel alright, I'm gonna take on the world. Light up the stars, I've got some.
She did begin her music career while doing the show, both in 2014, but once the show ended in 2017, it wouldn't be for another 4 years until she got her first Billboard hit in 2021.
You can try to get on the skin while he's on my.
Having now broken through the Hot 100 barrier, she would continue to get hits, one more recently being
I feel so much lighter like a feather with you off my mind.
Background.
Please, Please, Please would originally be released on June 6th of 2024, charting 2 weeks later at number 2. Given just the following week, it would hit number 1, where it currently sits at the end of the month. In addition to the original, there's a bunch of other versions that were released alongside it, such as an acoustic version,
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
both a sped up
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
and slowed down version,
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
an officially released a cappella and instrumental, as well as a clean version or radio edit. Please, Please, Please is going to be off of her upcoming 6th album, Short and Sweet, that's currently scheduled to be released on August 23rd of 2024. Please, Please, Please is actually the second single off of this album, the first one being
So you can't sleep, baby, I know. Does that mean it's the soul? Move it up, down.
In terms of additional writing and production credits on this single, we have both Amy Allen and Jack Antonoff. We talked about Amy Allen way back when we did
Thinking you could live without me. Thinking you could live.
Since then, she's had plenty of time to get additional pop songwriting credits, such as
Walk through fire for you. Just let me adore you.
and even more recently,
I want every bit of you. I guess I'm selfish. It's bad.
next we have Jack Antonoff, who we literally talked about last episode, and not much has changed since the last month, so if you want to know what he's been up to, simply go watch the last pop analysis when we did
And for a fortnight there we were, forever running to you.
Please, Please, Please is released solely by Island Records.
Form.
Please, Please, Please is listed as a disco pop, country, and yacht rock song, is just over 3 minutes long, is in 4/4 time, is mostly in A major, except in the second verse, where it seems to be in C major, and 107 beats per minute. After the instrumental intro, Sabrina Carpenter gives us the first verse,
I know I have good judgment. I know I have good taste.
followed by the first chorus,
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
we then get an interesting key change for the second verse,
I have a fun idea, babe. Maybe just stay inside. I know
before going back to A major for the second chorus,
heartbreak is one thing. My ego's another. I bet
which then leads us to the outro,
if you wanna go and be stupid, don't.
which obviously ends the song.
Synth.
The arpeggiated synth, which opens the song, given it only plays for the first half of the first phrase, does this first A major chord before moving to a C sharp minor over G sharp chord. In the following phrase, it still does all of these arpeggiations, going first D major, F sharp minor over C sharp, B minor, and then A major, before doing this really big up and down arpeggiation all on E major.
Guitar.
One of two different guitars in the song, the first one being an electric guitar, does this little slide up on the 6 to begin with, before doing this F sharp minor over C sharp, E major over G sharp, F sharp minor over A, and then over C sharp, still that F sharp minor chord, before repeating that, given it truncates that last F sharp minor over C sharp, just sticking with the F sharp minor over A. And it only plays on the back half of the first phrase. In the following phrase, it abandons the chords entirely, doing these heavy syncopated figures, going as low as that G sharp on the bottom and going as high as the D above the actual staff. After that intro, we then get the acoustic guitar. In this section, it's actually two acoustic guitars layered over each other, doing these weird finger pickings, which you see is the resultant approximate rhythm, but the chords are accurate. It's that A major chord going to an F sharp dominant 7 chord, and then a B minor chord for 2 bars. After that, it switches to doing D major, then an F sharp minor, then an E major chord for 2 bars. Beyond that, we actually don't get anything new until the outro of the song. Now the guitar is actually just straight up strumming, doing that D major, E major, A major, and then C sharp dominant 7 chord. It repeats the previous pattern and then moves on to this one, doing a D major, E major, and then an A major chord for 2 bars, but notice how that bottom note changes. Starts off with the low note being an A, then a G sharp, an F sharp, and then an E. Finally, at the end of the outro, it does a D major chord before moving to a D minor chord and ultimately ending on that A major chord. Bass. Bass starts off fairly simplistically, going A and then G sharp with that slight fall in the second bar, going to that low F sharp next and working to the C sharp through that 8th note B, repeating that and those last 2 8th notes at the end going A, C sharp. In the following phrase, the bass gets very low as that A well below the staff, before jumping back up to that E and then doing another E an octave higher in the following bar. After that intro, it drops out for the first verse, but comes back for the first chorus. Notice how it's still doing A in that G sharp in those first 2 bars, but the rhythms are very different, before hitting that F sharp syncopation and going all the way to the F sharp an octave higher. Moves back to similar rhythms that it was doing with the quarter notes and the 8th notes, going on that D and then going to the C sharp, going to the B, going to the A, and then going to that low E, and then doing this E arpeggiation once we get there. E, G sharp, B, E, G sharp, B, G sharp, E. To the second verse, this is where we're kind of in C major. You'll notice that we don't get any more C sharps, we don't get any more G sharps. They're all naturals at this point. The bass continues on, really affirming that we're in C major, now even getting the F natural as well, and you'll notice it's doing all of these slides and fall-offs to make things very interesting. In that last bar, though, you can see that we start to transition back to A major. In that last bar, we have the G natural, but then the G sharp, the B, and the D. The last new bass material we get is actually during the outro. We have that bar of D and then those 3 E's before dropping all the way down to that G sharp. Then we have a bar of A and then we have a bar of C sharp creeping up to that E at the end. We then have another bar of D, and then a bar of E spanning the octave, and then those last 2 bars we have that half bar of A, that half bar of G sharp, before going to that F sharp and working its way down to C sharp. Finally, at the end, we get that bar of syncopated D, that low D whole note at the end, before finally ending on A.
flute?
Is it a flute? Is it a synth? Hell, it might even be a violin if you go by the personnel list. We're gonna call it a flute because at various points you can clearly hear that there's at least a flute there. Regardless, starting off on that F sharp, working its way down, going to E, to D, to C sharp, and then finally ending on that B. Following that, we got a run, starting off on the A on the staff, working its way to the A above the staff, quickly dropping to E, then going up to G sharp, going back down to E, and then ultimately ending up on F sharp. It then ends that particular section doing that same F sharp down to C sharp half note run, but then does this huge arpeggiation on an E major chord, given this is technically below the range of a normal flute, and it's also technically below the range of a normal violin, so I'm still just calling it a flute. Moving on to the second verse, now going on that E and then that low A, and actually hitting the C sharp, given the bass at this time is playing an A, so it's really just kind of creating this A major chord within this C major section, very much interestingly tying the two keys together. Regardless, those back two bars hits that D and then drops to the D an octave lower. We then get that C natural, a whole bar of it before going E, then to D, then to B, and that last bar you can hear that there certainly is a flute there, going F natural, G natural. The only additional flute figure we get is doing that same half note run from the F sharp down to the C sharp, doing that E arpeggiation, and then just having a bunch of what I'm calling flute nonsense.
Verse.
Sabrina Carpenter started off fairly low in her range. We don't even get on the staff until the very end of this phrase on the E, and doing very syncopated rhythms as well.
I know I have good judgment, I know I have good taste. It's funny and it's ironic that only I feel that way.
In the following phrase, that continues with the syncopation, but we get even lower. We don't even hit the E on the staff, instead going as low as that E an octave lower.
Yeah, I promise them that you're different, and everyone makes mistakes, but just don't.
On the back half of the first verse, we do very much keep that level of syncopation, but we do get a little bit higher. We now get at least the F sharp on the staff.
I heard that you're an actor, so act like a stand-up guy. Whatever devil's inside you, don't let him out tonight.
Finally ending the first verse, very much still hitting that very low E, but that last bar is actually spoken as opposed to sung.
I tell them it's just your culture, and everyone rolls their eyes. Yeah, I know. All I'm asking, baby.
The second verse, being half as long, and again arguably in C major, still very much maintains those syncopated rhythms. We also have some additional ad-libs below it. Given we're not singing, she's just talking. Notice that the range is still pretty low, but hey, we get to the A on the staff.
I have a fun idea, babe. Maybe just stay inside. I know you're craving some fresh air, but the ceiling fan is so nice. And
In the back half of the second verse, though, things do get interesting. We still have these heavily syncopated rhythms, but after that "and we could live" line on "if no one knows" in the continuing line, she's in harmonies with herself, the higher harmony going all the way to the A above the staff, before dropping down to the bottom on the word "kidding," but as she repeats "really, really, really," initially we only have her main vocal line, we do get a kinda below that, but then we move on to her having these three-part harmonies, which will be important when we talk about the chorus.
we could live so happily if no one knows that you're with me. I'm just kidding, but really, really, really.
Chorus.
Starting off on those three-part harmonies, going A major over E, B minor over D, then back to A major, now over C sharp, she then moves to just two-part harmonies on "Don't Prove I'm Right."
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
We then go back to the three-part harmonies, but those opening three chords are now different: B minor over F sharp, A major over E, and B minor over D. The big thing here is those three-part harmonies continue, doing a litany of various motions up and down harmonically.
Please, 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 don't bring me to tears when I just did my makeup so nice.
After that, we just go to one main vocal line, starting off on that C sharp and getting very much as low as that low E below the staff.
Heartbreak is one thing, my ego's another. I beg you don't embarrass me, motherfucker.
We get a low melisma on that O, and then we get those three rapid fire chords going again, B minor over F sharp, A major over E, and B minor over D, but underneath that, we have this E major over B chord that's expanded over a bar.
Please, please, please.
The only additional thing we ever get in the second chorus is an additional ad-lib line underneath the main vocals.
Heartbreak is one thing, my ego's another. I beg you don't embarrass me, motherfucker.
Outro. In the outro, Sabrina Carpenter is now very much staying higher in her range. The lowest note we actually get is that low A, but we actually get as high as that C sharp. You can also notice that she starts to play with the syncopation now, having that distinct triplet on the back half of this phrase.
If you wanna go and be stupid, don't do it in front of me.
As the outro continues, the same thing holds true. Very syncopated rhythms and working higher in her range, this time getting as high as that E.
If you don't wanna cry to my music, don't make me hate you perfectly.
As the song begins to wrap up, we get those please, please, please lines again. Notice now that we do not have the three-part harmonies, just that main vocal line with a couple of additional pleases underneath.
Please, 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 please.
But right as the song ends, we get one more huge melisma showing off her three-part harmonies, essentially touching on the entirety of the A major key, minus obviously two chords. Interesting kind of pop song we got to look at today. It's not often we get an interesting key change, like from A major to C major, back to A major, especially for an entire second verse. A minor to C major maybe, but not A major to C major. Regardless, I'm glad we finally got to look at one of Sabrina Carpenter's songs. If you remember, we actually first talked about her when we were doing Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license and the drama that went around that. But now that Sabrina Carpenter's got a couple of hits to her name, maybe we'll actually get some more drama if they didn't bury the hatchet. Maybe we can get a beef that rivals that of Kendrick Lamar and Drake. No.
I'm just kidding, but really, 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 please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
Look, it's not like I hate Jack Antonoff for the music that he does. I get that he's a good producer, but we talk about him a lot. He's won Producer of the Year the last 3 years at the Grammys. We've mentioned him for pretty much every Taylor Swift pop analysis we've done, and there's a number of them. I just wish we could maybe talk about some other producers, maybe.
Please, please.